Well, here's the beginning of the 1776 mile review on my awesome little 2022 Polaris Ranger. This thing has been a total trooper and has done so much work for me. And yet again, doing something that I can't do on my own, helping me bring a tree stand back into the property. So we'll go for a little drive and then we'll talk about the my Ranger. There's a stick that had fallen down lately. Let's see if we can get that thing out of here. Goodbye. It is amazing what a billy goat these things are. Now, because we have a 15-foot long tree stand, we'll hug this a little bit wider here. That big tree right there is where this is going. So I got to decide what I want to do here. Perhaps first we'll talk about this, then I'll worry about unloading it. Now, my Ranger for me, as I step on a stump and darn near break my leg, my Ranger for me has been an absolute lifesaver. I'm an only child. My friends have a very different work schedule than I do. Their free times do not always, or very rarely, line up with my free time. I do most everything that I do productively, basically alone. And without this machine, I couldn't do a lot of it. Between the bed to carry wood and to move around chainsaws, tools, things like that, and evidently to bring a tree stand back by myself in some pretty inclement terrain that would really stink to carry that on my own. It is definitely done excellent work. I have considered looking at one of those rammy mowers for the front. The other thing I use this thing for is a plow for the winter time here. There are aftermarket wheels and tires on this. The stock 25s that came on it are pretty lame. I ran those for a really long time and finally decided to change. I am regretting the choice to not change sooner. The difference that these 28s, and then I put a set of 27, you'll see that on the playlist for this too if you want to see those, on the stock wheels. That was the best thing I ever did. This machine is not lifted in any way, entirely unmodified. The 28 by 10s fit absolutely perfectly. The 27s are 9 and 11 wide, so they're the same setup that the original unit had. These new tires make an absolutely ridiculous difference. It's amazing. You would think that I cranked the coils on this thing to make it look as good as it does and have the ground clearance that it does. That is one thing that I griped about. It just has mountains of ground clearance. The factory winch has not ever given me a problem other than the wireless winch controller battery dying. In hindsight, I wish I would have had a hard wire set up inside the cab and the wireless winch. So that way, if the wireless winch died, I still had options. This machine has been an excellent trail machine and an excellent work machine. And like I said, I could not have gotten everything done that I have gotten done without this machine. Now, 1,776 miles doesn't sound like a terrible lot. I have friends who have Rangers that are over 5,000, 10,000. I even have a buddy over 12,000 miles on an original Ranger, original trans, not original belt, of course, but original engine. That is definitely some miles to look forward to. And you ride that many miles on one of these, I bet you're going to have a really good time. I've had a really excellent time with the amount of miles that I put on this machine. Is trail road in pretty aggressive conditions. I don't really I ride this thing pretty hard. I think it handles quite well. The brakes are definitely really good. The engine braking is really on point, and the added control, stability, and ground clearance, and the bump bridging capability of going to 27s or 28s. This is just how it should have came from the factory. I have no idea why they were 25s from the factory. The CVT seems to act more responsive and better on these bigger tires. You go faster for a given amount of engine RPM in a given clutch position. The machine just feels more alive in every single way. It feels more alive going slow. It feels more alive going fast. I'm just kind of floored. When I put these 28s on, first of all, they're the smallest size that I could get these awesome maxxis carnivores in. I specifically wanted these tires because they look absolutely ridiculous, and I figured with that tread pattern, they would bite like crazy. And as you just saw, as it just creepy crawls through some pretty sticky mud here and there. Now, not a long amount of mud, but a little bit of mud nonetheless. These tires rock. They're very good in rocking conditions. The one thing I will say is in deep sand, I don't think they're the best tire out there, but generally mud tires are not the best tire in deep sand. Thankfully, I mostly get to play around in either not very deep sand or dirt, which is what I'd rather play around in anyway. Not really a big sand guy. These things are not very fast. Going to the dunes with one of these would be kind of like a total waste of time, unless all you were doing was listening to tunes and looking around and watching somebody else who had a sand rail or a Razor or something, or an X3, some high performance machine that was actually good in the sand. You could watch them and enjoy the trip, kind of like a Jeep that doesn't have any power, you know, kind of just gets around places. In this case, in my opinion, this thing does a lot more than a Jeep. And for me, the one downside about a Ranger or any other side-by-side is, well, first of all, the size is perfect for what I need to have. It fits in these tight conditions. The turning radius is super duper tight, better than what a Jeep would be. It's better than a Jeep in a whole lot of ways. The one problem is that they don't have plates and insurance. I understand that you can buy them and modify them and perhaps get them titled in some states. I haven't looked into that. I think it'd be really nice to do. I think that is the one limitation of a side-by-side. You get a lot of excellent features and capability, but it's really a detriment to not have a plate and the ability to, you know, drive it on the road like a normal person does. I think that is the one failing. If you were in the market for a side-by-side, I would talk to your dealer if they can help you get it titled and put the turn signals in. Because, of course, it already has brake lights and headlights. As far as I know, it needs to have a horn and turn signals and a plate. Now, this one has a windshield and a wiper because I paid to have that. So I'm basically mostly there besides turn signal and a horn. So I recommend that to you. The one thing about that is up front, they're going to require DOT tires to go fast. I've more than touched 50 mile an hour in these tires, and they haven't come apart. So I'm not too worried about the DOT thing. But I know that in order to get it registered, you need to worry about what tires you put on. So that is going to limit your tire selection and your choices. I put on some rigid pods on the front. I just have them hardwired in on a flip switch. That way I can turn them on. Like if I was helping a buddy fix their machine or recovering a deer out of the woods, I don't need to have the ignition on in order to run the lights. They're hardwired to a relay with a fuse, and the switch is totally separate. I did the switch really, really janky, just so everybody knows. I didn't want to cut a hole in my dash, and I didn't want to have water intrusion be an issue. So it's literally, where'd it go? It's there somewhere. I kind of reach my hand down and flip the switch. Right here. I kind of reached down and flip the switch. And like I said, I did that literally on purpose. I didn't want to drill holes in. I didn't want to make it easier for, mud, water, things like that, rodents to get around my machine. And I didn't want to have the switch on the dash, which had other implications too. I wanted it like that. So, I guess don't be like me, but then again, I would do that again. I really like being able to just reach my hand down and flip the switch. It's super easy to deal with, and I like it. So, I have yet to damage, as far as I know, any component. I was just looking to see. I got some water in that boot. From a ways away, it looked like the boot was ripped. It's not, just water. I have never damaged a single thing on this unit with all the use and abuse that it's had. The battery's original. I've changed all the fluids many times per the manual. Nothing has broken, and even the tires weren't even that worn out. I just got sick and tired of tiny tires that didn't grip very good, and the ground clearance kind of sucked on those tires, that kind of stuff. I changed the tires out of choice. And I wanted to have two sets. I wanted to have a snow and a long distance on-road set, which is the tires that I put onto my original wheels that I have a video on. Like I said, go ahead and check that out in the Ranger playlist. These are raceline beadlocks with 28x10 maxxis carnivores, and I really, really like them. I highly recommend a tire change. I personally would never recommend that anybody try and run the maximum life out of their tires, because to be perfectly honest with you, I believe the bigger tire takes more abuse off of the driveline, the undercarriage, the doors, and whatever by getting some more ground clearance and making it so you don't have to bash the machine into things as much. You kind of bridge over top of them, and by having the more diameter, your approach angle improves, your departure angle improves. I have absolutely no rubbing through all full suspension travel with these wheels and tires, and I think they are the single best thing you could ever do to improve your happiness with your basically stock machine. I think it's a lot. The benefits to doing a tire change are absolutely massive, and they're worth doing. Please consider it if you're even thinking for a moment that the 25s don't look good, they don't perform well, maybe they're wearing fast for you, whatever. Really consider a tire change. I put the 27, the biggest that I could find on the tires I wanted to run for the factory 12-inch wheels was 27s, and then I had to go up to these 14s in order to get 28s, and that was the smallest size that I could get these maxxis carnivores in, just so everybody knew the reason behind, all that stuff. So 1776-mile review. Long live the United States. I love my country. I'm very proud, very patriotic, and I hope you guys love your country. And if you're not from the United States, I hope that you love your country. That is also very important. But I wanted to do that review for this thing. We're coming into another, deer season, and I mostly got this for both property work and for deer hunting. To get out places I was tired of using an HT truck to go places. They're heavy, they're loud, they squeak, they rattle, and they get abused. And when I can take this thing instead, taking dirt roads in this thing, taking 2 tracks in this thing is a far superior, mode of transportation. One thing I will say is when I ordered this, it was specifically because of my fiance and my daughter. So it has 3 seats. Now that we're looking back and, now that things are opened up and trails are made, someday a 4-seat machine will probably be on my list of things to do. However, I would not have been able to be as productive as I am with a 4-seat. As you just saw that little trail I just went through, it's pretty tight. Now, constructing all this stuff, having a bigger, more obnoxious machine may be more comfortable if we're going and accessing hunting other places like on state land and going trail riding with dogs. This is the biggest thing. We have 2 bigger dogs, a lab and an English setter, Layla and Maverick, and I would like to bring them with me. And it does not work very good with the 70-something pound lab. He's an American lab, so he's not an English lab. He's lean, mean, speedy machine. And Layla is lean and small. Her mom was small, her dad was small, so she's not a big girl, but about 45 pounds or whatever. But 2 adults, a child, and 2 dogs in a 2-door is not exactly an awesome solution. So given my experience with this Ranger, I would highly recommend a 4-door Ranger as well. Know that your breakover angle and your ground clearance is going to be a much bigger problem with the longer wheelbase, and they still come with teeny weeny little tires unless you get a special package. I will say that Can-Am Defenders, I've seen very good reviews. I test drove one. I thought it was honestly just a spectacular unit. Can-Am has really jumped on the bigger tire, bigger wheel situation to give the customer a little bit more, because I think that they realize that skimping on the wheels and tires is not the way. However, like I said, I don't regret this unit at all. The biggest reason I bought it is because I know how good the on-demand 4-wheel drive the Polaris has, the ease to which it locks up, and it has only been matched by Can-Am Smart Lock. That technology is now in a lot of their units, including, I think, most of the Defenders, except for the basic model. And that, as opposed to Visco Lock doesn't really work very good. It uses, basically, when you have wheel slip, it creates hydraulic pressure, and it sort of limited slips out the differential, as opposed to a true electric locker that actually locks both sides together. The response on the Polaris system is ridiculous, and as I'm just getting bit by mosquitoes, good Lord. On the Polaris, they came out with an excellent system a decade or more before Can-Am did. That is the biggest reason why I have a 2011 Polaris 850 XP and love it. It's a really nice quad, and that on-demand 4-wheel drive system far outperformed Visco Lock. They now have Visco 4-Lock on their 4-wheelers. That's what I got, a Can-Am 4-wheeler with Visco 4-Lock, which allows you to manually select and lock up the front end. And as far as I know, it'll do it itself too, but after some wheel slip. I like to be able to manually lock it, and the Rangers also have that system, and it works phenomenal. I did not order the XP. This is not an XP, does not have arched A-arms. They sit a little bit higher, and they have a little bit more power. I specifically got this because I wanted to run good on any junk gas that I got hold of on trail riding or just working on the property and stuff, and I didn't feel that I needed to have the extra power, which I still stand by that. Utility machines can be ridden very hard, but there's basically no point in flooring it corner to corner. What is much better about them is being able to keep a high average speed, and therefore you're still doing, high performance riding, but perhaps a little bit less, abuse on the machine. They're heavy. I personally don't think an extra 20 horsepower is going to make or break this circumstance from this thing 60-something horse to an 80-horse unit. I don't see that being a net gain, but what I do see is the long-term reliability of a lower output engine working to my advantage on what is really a utility machine that you can have a lot of fun with. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the update video on this machine, and if you're in the search, obviously I think that Can-Am's come a long way. I think that Polaris has done nothing but continue to upgrade their Rangers, and then I will caution one thing: a lot of people and me were looking at the sport utility market like a General or a Commander and things like that. The one downside of going with one of those is occupant room and comfort, and you don't get to have 3 seats. So you go a 4-door would have 4 seats, and a 2-door would have 2 seats, where this thing has 3 seats and has 2 doors, or you'd have 6 seats with 4 doors with a Defender or a Ranger. And there's no doubt that the General rides really good. There's no doubt that the Commander rides really good, but there is an ergonomic issue, which is they're far more sport as opposed to sitting on a couch. These things are like riding a couch, and they're a lot of fun. So keep that in mind when you go into this shopping expedition that you're going on. Make sure you test drive as much as you can. Try to find a dealer that is willing to work with you, test drive, or allow you to test drive their stuff. I think it's a red flag if dealers are like, nope, can't drive it till you buy it. That seems a little bit scary, but that's why you guys come for YouTube videos, to see what owners are like. Someone is going to ask to. This is the factory front bumper with the factory plow mount setup, and also this is a Polaris bolt-on front rack, which I really like because it ties together the roll cage with the bumper. And when I put this together and then tightened it all up, it really made all this extremely rigid. So I definitely highly recommend that setup to you if you want to. Not only does it look sweet and protects the body, as you can see, I've had incidences before, but it looks cool, and looking cool is half the battle. And you could use this as a clamping surface to make gun mount setups or whatever, but I've definitely needed this to protect my machine from brush and things like that. Sometimes brush jumps out to get you on trails, so keep that in mind. I do recommend, like I said, I've said this before, I did not order on the Polaris a North Star, which is what you have to get AC. I somewhat regret that, but there were no more North Star allocations for my dealership in 2022, so I wouldn't have gotten a unit. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to wait a year because I got a ton of value out of this unit in the first year that I had it, both recreationally and for work or for getting chores done. So I definitely would not feel bad about that. However, I think that if I was to get a 4-door, I would definitely make sure that I got AC because it does get hot. I would say the heat control on this machine it's okay. It definitely, you can feel some heat come in. I don't think it's as bad as my buddy's Can-Am X3. That thing was hot in the summertime, but it would be nice to have AC for about 3 or 4 weeks out of the year here in Michigan. If you live in another state where you can use it more, I think that having AC is for sure worth whatever cost it is. I just hope that they have it available for you to be able to buy. In my case, it wasn't available for me to get when I got it. It was the end of COVID. It was hard to get what you wanted to get, and dealership allocations were fewer. So, and I assume production capacity had dropped. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content about trail work, working with equipment, and specifically power sports stuff as well as trucks, trailers, mini excavator, compact tractor, all that good stuff. I have a lot of videos for you to watch, so if you want to check out my playlist and see what's there for you, again, make sure to subscribe if you would like to get updates on upcoming videos so you can be the first to see them. Take care all and have a wonderful day.